I'm doing this review on my Views Alto, and reason why I still do the Views Alto, and why I don't just freaking quit. A lot of people say, "Yeah, you got to quit that stuff," and the reason, backstory behind it all is probably similar to a lot of people, especially like veterans. I started on my nicotine journey back in 1981. I was in the Marines stationed over in Japan, and back then they had these things called Lucky Stars cigarettes. They also had other types of cigarettes. I think they call them is Lucky Stars and Seven Stars, something like that. But they were like a charcoal filtered cigarette. So I was in charge of like driving mail to all these different places. And so I'd go to the vending machines and pick up cigarettes. And I remember getting these Seven Stars cigarettes. And thinking, wow, man, this is cool, you know. And smoked those over there while I do my runs. And have my real start of like nicotine addiction. And then I ended up leaving Japan after a couple of years. And then I started on the chewing tobacco kick. And I started chewing tobacco in North Carolina. I was stationed out at Camp Lejeune. And I started doing this Copenhagen. And back then, Copenhagen, this is like the early 80s, mid 80s, something like that. So Copenhagen was about 98 cents a can back in like 82, 83. And then we'd buy these shot bottles of whiskey and put the whiskey inside the can of Copenhagen. Not the whole little shot bottle, but maybe half the bottle. Put that inside the whiskey. And you get really good and buzzed off of that. And so, by then, mid 80s, I was fully entrenched in this nicotine addiction, and so I just naturally went on to like smoking like Camel cigarettes. Camel Wides came out in the 90s, early 90s. Had these Camel cigarettes that were big and fat, big and round. And I'd smoke them things up. And did that for a few years, couple years. And then and I've smoked off and on, never a real heavy smoker. I mean, I wouldn't like, I just like kind of, I never really fully like got into the serious inhaling of cigarettes. But I'm sure, any damage done to me by any toxins or anything were probably doing my electrical work. Being exposed to the Camp Lejeune water, working up in asbestos, working up in ceilings, a lot of insulation work. That probably did more damage, I would think, than any freaking cigarette ever did to me, really. And then just being outside, breathing in freaking smoke and dust and all kinds of garbage out in California, because the roads, there's a lot of pollution out there. So, everybody got their vices, so I smoked them Camel Wides, I remember in the 90s, and I kind of just smoked whatever I could get my hands on, really. And was homeless a few times, which caused me some real traumatic times in life. I mean, I still deal with a lot of trauma, I think, from my early years of being homeless. My dad's suicide. Dad killed himself off a 200-foot bridge. Stepmom used to beat us senseless. So I always had like these, I call them like tics, like nervous tics, where I'd like pull the top when I was a kid. I ain't got any hair anymore. But back in the day, I had long blonde hair and everything. And I pull my hair out at the top of the head. And I never knew why I did it. I never understood why, but it was just, it was kind of like, you know, it's just I get nervous about stuff, anxiety over life at an early age as a kid. So it's kind of like not surprising that I ended up, you know, being addicted to nicotine as I got older. And then going in the Marines, I was always kind of had to, you know, you had to kind of be on your toes and stuff, head on a swivel, sort of, you know. And being homeless, I ended up, you know, being kind of a little paranoid, you know. Been in a few fights and stuff, and I've always been poor. I've always been poor. I've never had a lot of money. I mean, yeah, I've never had money. I never had to beg. Never really had to beg. I have had to go into food lines. Um, just, you know, just tough living all around. No family really to go back to or anything because they were all dead or gone, whatever. By the time I was 20 years old, so I always kind of just lived in my own fantasy world, you know, trying to make it, you know, day to day, month to month, whatever. And so the cigarettes, you know, was kind of comforted me, I guess, you know. And then probably 5 years ago, uh, I yeah, I was going to the VA, doing some online. What was I doing? Doing online support groups, you know, mental health groups, and a lot of veterans, you know, especially the Marines and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of people chewed tobacco when I was in, a lot of smokers and stuff. So I went into some support groups and kind of got me thinking, man, we had time to ditch these cigarettes, you know. I just stopped smoking cigarettes, and started thinking like, why am I smoking a cigarette? What's the freaking point of this freaking cigarette? What is it doing for me? And so I decided that I wanted to quit. I wanted to quit cigarettes. I mean, I had done a vape before. I wasn't like partial to it. I was just like, you know, I figure hit this vape, and then I'd be right. Then I'd be back to the cigarettes because it just the vape just didn't hit right. You know, it just didn't feel right. But then so I started going to support groups and stuff. Try using one of them filterless, one of those things that's like a cigarette, but it's not really a cigarette. It's just it's like a tube. You know, it's like it looks like a cigarette, but it's not a cigarette. And then I said, that's not really working for me because there's no nicotine in it. And so I picked up this whole one of these. I put it one of these Views. I've had this Views for a long time now. You put these freaking little cartridges in there. It is. So, I mean, kind of ridiculous, but. And then I just started doing that. And I would try not to. At first, I was smoking cigarettes and hitting this Views Alto vape. And then finally, I think after about 3 or 4 months, I was just like, you know what? I don't think I want a cigarette anymore. I still had the nicotine addiction, but I was like, I don't think I need a freaking cigarette. And so that was about 4 years ago. And ever since that time, I have not smoked a single cigarette after about 3 months of using the vape. And my health feels. I mean, I'm getting older. I mean, I have the same. Probably, I have the aging issues. Because I'm 61 years old. I mean, your teeth aren't going to last forever. Your hair obviously doesn't. And then you get fatter. I did manage to lose a lot of weight though, so and I try to just eat like salads and stuff like in the morning. But for me, going to the vape was probably Probably the best thing I could do for myself to quit cigarettes, because I could never imagine myself ever quitting cigarettes. It was like there's no way I'm ever gonna. You're always gonna see me with a cigarette. I mean, that's just who I am. And all my friends all smoked. Friends that I used to have, I don't know if they're even alive anymore. I mean, I haven't really seen my friends in years because they're from the West Coast and I'm out here on the East Coast now. Um, and I don't think even going back out to California would be a smart move for me because even back in the 90s, it was freaking nutty back then, too. It was like, we had the same stuff going on. We had shootings. We had stuff that spiked up your anxiety. We didn't have the social media that we have now where everything's like in your face. Somebody died, And then you're supposed to go, ah, ah, ah. It's going to happen to me. So I think society and societal pressures, all this hyped up, look what happened today. It really is it's just a sell point. People just use it to sell media, sell products, sell vapes, whatever, cigarettes, alcohol. Quit the alcohol 20 years ago. But hopefully you get what I'm saying. It's like, I don't think you got to quit everything cold turkey. I mean, you quit everything cold turkey, that's the best way to fail. And if you like freaking hitting a vape, I mean, whatever, People can say, oh, don't do that. Meanwhile, you're eating friggin' processed food that's got enough chemicals in it to kill a cow, I mean, it's like, whatever, do you, I guess, And so, I don't think I'm going to quit doing the nicotine. I think I'm probably always going to be addicted to some kind of nicotine. And I say that, if you enjoy nicotine, you're an adult. You get it. There's no silver lining. There's no tooth fairy. Santa Claus only comes once a year. And the Easter Bunny, well, everybody knows about the Easter Bunny. I mean, if you know all those things, then what's it going to hurt? Hit a vape, even hit a cigarette. I mean, but anyway, we got off topic, but that's basically how I quit smoking cigarettes, You smoke like a chimney, but, yeah. The Views Alto, I'm not being paid. I'm not a paid endorsement dude. Matter of fact, I still got to pay for these things. Four pods are $24. Last me about 3 weeks probably. But in my opinion, it's a good alternative to smoking cigarettes. And one of the reasons is because of the price. It doesn't cost you as much as cigarettes. Cigarettes out here in North Crackalacky are like I don't know. I think $5 or $6 a pack, whereas in California they're like $12 a pack. So my suggestion would be, you still got a nicotine addiction, just hit a vape instead of smoking cigarettes. Plus you're not taking in as many chemicals. All right, that's all I got to say. Thanks for watching.